And welcome back to Spiral Tree Entertainment, where today, for some god awful reason, John has chosen for us to watch a movie that caused nothing but pain and suffering to everybody who's ever watched it, Jack and Jill. And I am just thinking about where I can find the main cast of every modern Adam Sandler film. So I'm going to keep my eye out for Kevin James, Rob Schneider, David Spade, and so on. And this movie starts with a whole bunch of twins talking about how great it is to be a twin. And immediately I've lost all interest and will to continue this movie. I don't care about these people enough to hear your whole life story. I don't care that you're a twin. I don't care that your twin is your best friend or you got your degree from Harvard. I mean, I care a little bit about the Hooters girl, but yeah, that's interesting. But outside of that, I don't really care about anything else. And after the credit sequence, I'm assuming that our actual real life twins, we see the reach and pool and the amount of favors that Adam Sandler can get as we see Regis Philbin and Nick Swartzen and mentions of Al Pacino. Does that mean Al Pacino's going to be in this movie? That's not good. You're better than this, Al. It's crazy that they wrapped up the Godfather himself into this film. How down bad for money were you that you needed to appear in Jack and Jill? A Happy Madison production, apparently. I've never been more disappointed with the first 5 minutes of any movie in my entire life. And then that confusion expands because we get to see Adam Sandler as Jill, where he just pitches his voice slightly higher and takes his annoying traits and amplifies them up to 12. And that's the character. And it's only 8 minutes into the movie. John, I don't want to do this.
But you have to. I paid money for your suffering. All the $12.99 necessary to watch you suffer for an hour and a half. I don't think I've made a better purchase than buying Jack and Jill for you to suffer through.
And suffering is what I'm doing. And I wish I could tell you the plot of this movie. I think it's to get some Dunkin' Donuts for Al Pacino. I think that's the plot for the film.
What? You haven't figured it out yet? It's obvious to anyone who cares about this film. It's about the trouble between them and to mend that bond between Adam Sandler and Adam Sandler in a dress with a high-pitched stereotypical voice.
And clearly they're not close enough as twins are supposed to be to have like the superpower, like some sort of psychic physical connection, which leads to the only interesting character so far in this film, some little kid named Gary who's obsessed with tape, punching Adam Sandler in the mouth for coming up with the concept of this film, and I feel pride in this kid. I wish I could do the same thing right now, but no, John went and spent $12.99 for us to watch this.
Hey, when we were making the big list of movies for us to watch, we passed by Adam Sandler films, and you talked about Jack and Jill, and I told you I did not want to watch this movie, and you insisted that this film be on the list. Like a sick Make-A-Wish kid, I granted your wish, and it only cost me $12.99. You're welcome. You should thank me. Also, the best character here is the random homeless man that adds absolutely nothing to the plot other than one-liners.
Hey, sometimes people make mistakes, and that's okay. And after a small argument that leads them to run into the forest so the homeless man can do a one-liner, we see Al Pacino having to freak out at a play, which is the catalyst to try to get him on the Dunkin' Donuts commercial. And I can't believe this movie is real! And you know I would give all of this movie a pass if it wasn't for the scene where Gary is riding a bicycle with a hamster taped on his back and it looks scared for its life. That hamster looks so terrified. I have 2 hamsters and I love my hamsters very much. So this scene hurts me in my soul. Like, stress is like the #1 killer for hamsters, and that poor hamster is so stressed out. You know, they don't live long. You know, you are their whole world. You should give them a good life. They only live a couple years, and they shouldn't spend any of those years on the film set for Jack and Jill.
The hamster was CGI. It's fine.
It's not fine. It's the idea of the hamster being put through that is terrible. absolutely terrible. But we see more of this montage where Jill goes on The Price is Right, knocks herself out, so Drew Carey throws a bunch of prizes at the problem like it's Let's Make a Deal. And then this movie has the audacity, the balls, if you will, to show me a tiny glimpse of hope at the end of a tunnel as they play 2 seconds of a good movie, that good movie being Scarface, before you're sucked back into the reality that you're watching Jack and Jill.
Don't worry, buddy. We're only 22 minutes into the film. We're not even a third of the way done. Doesn't that make you happy? Doesn't that fill you with joy? Like seeing Jill on a jet ski in a pool. Look how happy she is. That's how happy you should be watching this film that I paid for us to watch like good friends do.
Don't worry, I'm going to find movies that I'm going to buy for you to watch to reciprocate the favors as a good friend. And then we see the fact that Adam Sandler has to hook himself up with a dating profile. Oh man, the idea of Adam Sandler as Jack having to hook up Adam Sandler as Jill on a dating profile just hurts my soul to its very core.
And don't forget the scene right after where Shaq is trying to sell you ham in a wig. They paid Shaq money to sing the words Hamalama Ding Dong, and he said yes. Don't forget that one day you at home could be famous enough. Someone would pay you, let's say, $250,000 to show up to a movie for 7 seconds to sell ham. That ham has to be either stellar or the absolute worst ham ever. Like 72 cents a pound, or it's just processed pig feet gizzards in beef tallow.
And after Shaq sells you ham, they get Jill a date, and it's with some dude named Fun Bucket through Craigslist. And poor Norm Macdonald said yes to do this movie. Norm Macdonald is actually funny. One of the funniest people of all time. Why did he sign up to do this film? Oh, yeah, it's because he feels like he owes his buddy Adam Sandler a favor. And you know Adam Sandler pulled on every single favor he could to get people to sign on this dog script. Like, oh my God, there's no connecting thread to the plot. It barely moves on. And it's so painful. And I'm only 35 minutes into this movie. And it feels like I've been here for 17 hours. And then we get to finally see the man, the myth, the legend, Al Pacino. And after a brief conversation with Jill, they're locking eyes from across the room, downing drinks while the rhythm booms. And the look from Al Pacino's eyes that he just jizzed in his pants. Oh, if I could get anybody to look at me like that. If I could get Zac Efron to just look at me the way Al Pacino was looking at Jill, my life would be complete. Even if right afterwards Zac just stabs me in the heart, it would be a life complete. I feel like Zac Efron's gonna get a restraining order for me and just be like, you can never see me or my kids ever again.
And speaking of future kids, Jared Fogle is also in this movie, and that just makes this movie such a painful experience to watch. The fact that he is seen doing anything outside of a prison cell hurts me to my soul, and the only reason I bring this up is because if I didn't, you guys would talk about it. Remember that time Jared was in Jack and Jill, you know, where you were reviewing a movie with a monster? Yeah, he's a monster, and he's in it. The movie's monstrous. It's a train wreck. Let's move on to her meeting the ShamWow guy literally 5 seconds later. And I'm waiting to see if he just slap chops Jill in her face because Adam Sandler deserves something bad to happen to him for making this movie. And luckily my wishes were granted because he put out Pixel and he got to see that at a certain point people stopped caring, like when he put out The Magnificent Seven.
And we see that there's not just one creep in this film, as Al Pacino surprises a girl in a coat closet and says that he's taking her to a bakery, but takes her to his house and makes her like 17 cakes and forces her to play stickball. And I know that's a euphemism for something. It makes me want to be euthanized, that's for sure. And after spending another night in the forest, like, Jill really likes sleeping outside. Jill spends the rest of the next day chilling with Philippe and his family, and there's an actual scene that got me to laugh, because physical comedy doesn't require a good movie to be able to laugh at it. And it's when they're playing soccer and she hits Grandma in the face with the shoe, then immediately swings the piñata and hits Grandma, and man, those were funny. I like seeing old people get hit for some reason. That's good physical humor. But then we immediately get to see Al Pacino being even creepier as he shows up at Jack's house just to take another swing at Jill. And, man, people just say yes to everything in Hollywood. Have some standards, please. And to continue somehow being the creepiest person in this movie, Al Pacino just sniffs her sweat stains on the bed and just comments some weird, uncomfortable stuff that even I don't feel comfortable saying anymore. It's just awful, John. It's just awful.
And then they get on the boat, and Jack is really trying to get this commercial with this psychopathic version of Al Pacino. He was so obsessed that he can't hear Adam Sandler doing the other Adam Sandler voice somehow worse than how he does it as Jill. Honestly, this is the one scene where I'm surprised in Adam Sandler's voice acting talents, because you already made a crappy voice for your other character, and somehow you make an even crappier version of it. It's just genuinely impressive.
And then they do some jump rope, and Jack, dressed as Jill, so he can go meet the creepiest man in the movie, Al Pacino. And I wish this movie didn't do every single twin trope that you could possibly imagine. They do the disconnected twins thing that used to be close when they were younger. They do the whole twin swapping outfits. This movie cannot get more stereotypical, and its tropes near the climax of the film are so awful. It's just awful. This movie had a budget. They spent money. I know the budget of this film has to at least be $12.99 at the very least. But no, it was $79 million went into this film. $79 million! And the only reason it made a profit is because it had every big name actor that Adam Sandler could convince to do this dog awful script on board. I'm convinced. Now I'm convinced Shaq made $1 million for that ham commercial. $79 million for this movie. You know what? I right now am an entry-level film student. I'm convinced I can do better with a $79 million budget than this. I can squander that money less than this film. Granted, it won't be good. I just started film school. It will not be good, but it will be better than this, I guarantee. They even hit this movie with the whole twins coming together, but then realizing you're just using me for Al Pacino, and that brings even more drama. It's just awful. It's just awful. I don't know why anyone would subject their friend to this kind of torture. It's so excruciatingly painful. I don't understand why anybody would want to watch this film. You wouldn't send this film to your worst enemies, yet alone people that you believe are your friends, that have been your friends for 10 plus years. You just don't do that. I wouldn't do that. It's such a terrible thing to do to somebody.
I don't make the wishes. You asked for this. I just granted it like a good friend would do. I even gave you a warning. I told you Jack and Jill is not a good movie. We shouldn't watch Jack and Jill. But you insisted, and I granted it for $12.99. You're welcome.
Oh, and it leads to the most generic ending possible as Jack shows up at the last minute to hang out with Jill on New Year's Eve. And even Al Pacino's like, yo, I've been too horny. I need to chill. You should go hang out with your real guy who actually loves and cares about you. And there's David Spade. I found him. He's dressed as a woman. Hey, David, how's it going? I knew you felt left out. Where's Kevin James? He's not in here. What about Rob? Rob Schneider? Rob Schneider's not here either? Man, even they wouldn't stoop this low. But David, you've got it, buddy. And then it truly ends with the only thing I've seen about this movie. The Dunkin' Donuts commercial, because everybody wants Al's Dunkachino. But Al at the end says the log line that should wrap up this entire movie. Nobody should see this. Nobody. Who has seen this movie? You need to talk to them. Burn this movie to the ground. Delete it from everything. And if you've seen it, you really need a stern talking to, because you've done something wrong with your life. And with that, that's the end of our Just Another Review of Jack and Jill. I hate this movie. This was a huge waste of the little company funds that we have. John, how do you feel about this film? From the depths of your soul, how do you feel?
It's not a good Adam Sandler movie. I like Adam Sandler movies. Like, honestly, I do. And there are parts in here where I laugh. I'm not gonna lie. I laugh at parts of it, but it wasn't anything I wanted to see again. But I watched it again with you, bud, just because you wanted to. Like a good friend.
Such a good friend. And with that, we had to share our suffering with you. If you like suffering with us, go ahead and go down below and hit that like button. While you're down there, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Do it. You won't. Hit that notification bell, coward. You won't do that either. And I bet you won't leave a comment about how much you just love this Adam Sandler movie. And with that, we will see you next time.